Hello and welcome back to the Coach's Hour. You're here with myself, Hym, and as always, my co-host, Jewade Graham. Quick bit of admin before we start. This podcast is free. No ads, there's no spam, just pure value from us. So if you want to pay us back, you can give us something for free as well. Leave us a review, like the episode, share it with a friend who you think might be a shit coach, and then tag us.
Imagine getting sent this pod now and you listen to it and it's like, someone sent me this. They must think I'm a shit coach.
That's it. Tag us so we can laugh at them with you. And that's the exchange rate. So with that out of the way, today's episode, we're going to be talking about injuries and specifically client injuries, how we deal with them, how we potentially cause them, and what do we do now because of those experiences.
Cool. So I've been waiting for this one because we spoke about this before the pod and I said to you, save it for the pod. So this is the first time I'm hearing this story too. But you have a client case study that you're going to go through today.
Yeah, man.
Do you want to set the scene for us? Set the scene. What happened?
So this is, keep in mind, this was a long time ago. So we're talking, this is my very first job. I'd say probably my first 15 clients. Yeah, one of those. Actually, I don't actually think I've told anyone about this. So I feel
first time you're going to tell someone into the world.
So I feel a bit embarrassed about it, to be fair. Keep it locked up, you know what I mean? Mainly because I just take huge amounts of guilt from it. I don't know if it's necessarily my fault, but it's definitely one of those clients that lives rent-free in my head, that's for sure.
But I think as well, before you start, because a lot of PTs will have had similar circumstances. I don't know, I've not heard the story, so I'm not going to say very similar, but in terms of something's gone wrong with a client and they won't tell anyone about it. And it's actually, if people speak up a little bit more, I won't say more relatable.
You're making it sound like it's fucking rape victim.
They killed someone. But people think because when I share a little bit of the stuff that I fucked up with and people message me and it's actually you do that as well. And I'm like, yeah, it's fucking normal. And it's but no one says it as well. So we'll get into your story, but for anyone out there, I bet you get messages from this, but oh yeah, that's happened to me, or I felt something.
I've killed my clients.
What do I do now? How do I get away with it?
So yeah, I actually broke my client's ankle, leg. I didn't actually personally break it. I didn't go.
This is what you've been doing BJJ for to get back into.
Yeah, that's it, right? Getting those leg locks. But yeah, I just remember being oh my fucking God kind of thing, shit. So we were doing GBC type training, right?
So what's GBC for anyone that doesn't?
GBC is kind of your supersetting antagonist and agonist, right? Upper body, lower body kind of thing. So I can't remember the upper body exercise that we were doing, but I definitely remember we were doing squats.
Barbell squats?
I say barbell squats, but we were using those shitty, the fixed barbells.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this just goes to show how probably wasn't ready this person was for squatting, right? And yeah, we were doing, back then, Poliquin was popular then, right? So the 1.25 reps, that's the vibe, right? So everyone's doing those naturally because you learn about that. And so he was doing 1.25 squats with what I can only describe and to give you a picture is when you do those classes Les Mills and shit, you got basically like that. It's not heavy at all, right? I think under maybe 25 kilos or less. And he's not doing it in a squat rack. He's just doing it kind of in between the treadmills kind of thing, because we're trying to find a space as you do, right? And yeah, he was just kind of dive bombing, quite quickly to, when you're doing the quarter and a lot of people just kind of bounce out the hole kind of thing. So he was doing that. And I just remember, I think because maybe the shoes that he's wearing, those kind of sock type shoes where you can probably
don't say Vibrams.
Not Vibrams, but you can get the Adidas shoes where almost like Yeezys, where they're kind of that kind
spongy.
Super spongy. So your feet can just spread. And I think that's the only thing I could think of why it kind of occurred. it just happened so quickly. I think his leg just kind of buckled underneath and just gone down. And I heard the loudest crack, man. Like,
see, that wasn't half as bad as what I was expecting.
Nah, it was bad.
Now, in terms of like, when you said you broke your client's leg, I was like, okay, then cool. What the hell's he done here? But that is like a genuine gym accident. But sorry, carry on.
And I think for me, it was always like, oh, maybe I could have spotted him a bit more. But if you think I guess this is my way of making myself feel better. If you think of anybody that's doing those Les Mills classes, no one's spotting anybody, right? They're just doing it. I did tell him to try to slow down in terms of the squat, like don't bounce out the hole. But, you know, a lot of times the clients, they're not, I think they kind of feel like they're making an adjustment, but they're not. I don't know what goes through their head when you're like, slow down, and they just carry on doing the same
not slowing
thing.
down at all.
Yeah. So,
you mean speed up? Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're ignoring you or they think that they're doing it. But yeah, that was what was going on. So there's loads of stuff that's kind of like, even now, like kind of running through my head, talking like, how could I have prevented it? I think really it was, you only know what you know, right? So at the time as well, there wasn't so much on the internet. Social media wasn't really a thing. So everyone, we were in that era of squats and deadlifts are the thing, right? And you just do those things with your clients. And I think if I had known what I know now, this person probably I wouldn't be squatting with them. You know, it's not like life or death situation if I got them to squat, but yeah, it wasn't the tolerance for it. You know, he could have benefited so much more from a much more stable exercise.
And so just to finish this story, because before we give like some learnings and takeaways, did the client allow you to rehab him after?
See, the thing is he never blamed me, right? Or, you know, which obviously I'm very grateful for. But at the same time, I feel like it also kind of makes me feel worse. You know, it's like, shit, man, this guy doesn't blame me at all, but I feel like
it was my fault.
Yeah, it was kind of my fault. So I felt really guilty. I was super nice to him afterwards. I didn't go like, you still have to pay me.
Give him a session.
Yeah,
I'll invoice you.
That's what I mean. So I gave him a full refund in terms of the package because at the time it was just like, oh, obviously you can't train with me, right? So I'm going to keep your money. But yeah, I think in hindsight, it was like, he's a fat loss client, right? So if he was on board with it, it could have been, okay, you've got this injury, let's still work on your nutrition. You still have fat loss as your goal. Maybe maybe you do it for free because you feel so bad, right? Or whatever. But your coaching, you can still retain this client in terms of a nutrition standpoint. You can still lose weight. It probably will help him in terms of recovery. And then afterwards, then you've got a goal that you can work on as well. It's like, okay, you've hurt your ankle or you've broken it. Now we've got to now rehab it. But I think at the time, like, he was embarrassed, I was embarrassed. And at the time, yeah, I just went for the route of, okay, I think I should just give this guy his money back because I didn't know anything different, right?
So I'll take a quick pause. We don't do ads, but I'm going to advertise ourselves, yeah? So let us know, or advertise some engagement. You are not the only person that's had a gym mishap. So let us know your gym mishaps in whatever. DM us on Instagram or let us know in the comments here, because Hym is not by himself with a gym mishap. So let's all share our gym mishaps. But I think in all seriousness though, that story is very relatable. Without the breaking a leg apart, like we've all done stuff where some of us, and myself included, have had near misses, like a leg's not been broken, but when you look in hindsight, it's like, oh, that could have gone very bad on a different day. And it's like, what do I do next time? And for you, you've got your learning. So let's dig into a little bit of what you would do next time. So, or if that would happen again. And I'm going to assume that you didn't do an assessment. Of course not. So like, and I think this is like, you do assessments, well, you're online now, aren't you?
Yeah.
So like the assessment process for me is really important, from how someone looks, but also someone's skill level, because an assessment might have told you that this person probably shouldn't be squatting. And I think a lot of coaches, myself included, I didn't have confidence in telling someone that they're not going to squat. And obviously I understand it was a different era where everyone was squatting, But for me, and that makes it even worse because if everyone's squatting and I see someone shouldn't squat and I haven't done an assessment and I'm new-ish as a PT, I'm not going to tell them they can't squat. Whereas if I've done an assessment and you can see something that's a little bit off, you can have confidence to have a conversation that says, okay, then I've seen whatever it is. We won't be squatting for this block, but what we're going to do instead to build this, there you go. And that might have, in hindsight, been like, okay, cool. And again, like you're making a mistake or you've made a mistake and you're sharing your experience so someone else out there doesn't have to. And if you'd have had that when you were younger as a PT, that probably wouldn't happen to you. And I get we've all got social media now, but an assessment would have been or will be for anyone listening to this, the starting point to see, can someone actually squat? And then when you do an assessment, probably take their shoes off. Little things like that. So like, I'll just give one example of an assessment, maybe with no shoes. Is there anything else that you would do maybe differently or add in to your process if you were to have that person again?
I think it's very difficult because hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? And I was just rolling with what I knew at the time. I don't know if I did it again. Like,
don't take the client on.
Yeah, I don't have more knowledge at the time, so I just did what I felt was, was okay. Probably wouldn't have selected that exercise, that's for sure. Especially like doing a 1 1/4 rep. That just exacerbates the issue, right? But it wasn't so bad that he couldn't do some form of squat that it would like break him, right? And the loading wasn't like crazy heavy either. I've seen fucking way worse people, loading their clients up, doing like 100 kilos when they're doing 1/4 reps, dive bombing. Maybe I could have been firmer in terms of my cueing to say like, look, if they keep dive bombing, just stop the set. Like, look, we need to you're too quick, and just remove the barbell and go just body weight and go, look, okay, this is the speed that you're going to go at, and then reintroduce it, right? Obviously, that's going to reduce a lot more forces to the joints, etc. Probably, not experience that same kind of thing.
Because I think as well, I don't know the circumstance, but I'm trying to imagine, and I'm not going to say, like, in my experience, it's unlikely, not impossible, of course, because it happened, but it's unlikely that someone would have a leg break literally from just squatting. And the reason why I say that is because, like, you say you took a lot of guilt and a lot of blame from that, and sometimes you just get those freak accidents where someone just, like, walking and slips and something's happened. And I'm not saying it is or isn't because I wasn't there, but it sounds like it might just be one of those unfortunate things where even if you had the experience and knowledge you have now, it still could happen because we can't control someone's response to exercise. All we can do is put measures in place to minimize that risk. And no one in the industry that I know of intentionally goes to do something or some harm to their clients. And like, I think for anyone out there that has an experience similar, like, yes, take a learning from it, but don't have that guilt and don't hold on to it, because there is no way that anyone goes into a session thinking I'm going to break someone's leg or I'm going to do something to their arm or pull a muscle for them. And I think with that, then you can take the knowledge of that, as you said, that was the best I could do at that time. And if that's the best you can do at that time, then there's nothing, you didn't do anything wrong kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm quite strict in terms of footwear as well now because of that. So yeah, if anyone's using like those kind of sock type shoes, I'm like, no. Even the Vibrams, they're all right because at least they're flat soled. But the ones that are like Yeezys where they're spongy, where your feet literally can splurge off the edge of the shoe, like they're a big no for me.
And I think it's important as well, like it's a little bit off topic, but because I liken it to not back then, but to now, because that was an industry trend, the 1 1/4 reps. And it's like when people see stuff on social media today that they don't fully understand, but because insert big names doing it, they might feel like, I'm going to go on the gym floor on Monday and get all my clients to do it as well. So I think we need to take some learning from that and say, like, all the industry trends will probably come and go. And I'm not saying the trend is good or bad, but if you have context behind why you're doing whatever it is you're going to do, then that's important as well. Like, and that's not relating to you because you didn't have social media back then, but now it's really relevant because trends do come and go and a lot of people do them without the context, and we can be putting our clients at risk because whoever the big name is said, do this because this is the best way to grow your quads, grow your chest, whatever it is. And it's probably not for Susie, our Gen Pop client who's 38 with 3 kids.
You're doing fucking 1.25 reps.
Do you know what I mean? Get that tempo
In the
down.
hardest point.
So that was a bit of a prehab. Do you have a rehab? In fact, I've got a rehab story then, and we can dive into that because that was a bit of a prehab.
Last thing on that as well, he did come back to me, like, I think after, it might have been about 4 years ago, he actually reached out and he was like, oh, I'm interested.
Did you ever talk about it?
I think, yeah, we spoke about it a little bit, but I think it was a little bit, he was a little bit embarrassed with it, if I'm honest.
Oh, bless him.
Which kind of made me feel bad as well, because I felt embarrassed with it. And I actually didn't think he needed to at all. But I think, yeah, maybe, I don't never really ask him why I kind of got that vibe. So
it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think it'd have been worse if, like, not worse, but I'd have felt bad if he would have blamed you because it wasn't your fault, if that makes sense. Like, yes, I don't know. I say yes. I don't know if things could have been done differently in terms of your coaching, but if that would have happened to me, I wouldn't have blamed my coach. Unless my coach done something intentionally or like something completely wild where I'm like, you've put me on a BOSU ball to do that.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to blame you then. But you didn't.
Not that, but I did get my clients to sign waivers then though. So
I put you on a BOSU ball, you can't sue me.
Yeah, I did I had to have my waiver forms, so
yeah, so
always got that, on point.
Yeah, so I'm glad he didn't blame you because like thinking like if someone done something by accident, even if I'm upset, you can be upset and not blame someone. It's different. So yeah. So I had a guy, this is a rehab story, and I think we're going to go into in a different episode. I'm not sure what order they're going to be released, but we'll speak about physios and referring out in another time. So this will link back into that story whenever it occurs. But had a client who was 100 plus kilos. I can't remember how much the other side of 100, but fair bit, lot to lose. 6 foot plus tall, so 6 foot maybe 4. 5 at a push? 4, I'll say. 6'4", 100 plus kilos, a lot of weight to lose. And he loved trail biking, so biking on trails. So he was doing that before he came to me. Kind of advised, maybe not to stop doing it, but just because he told me some stories and he was just throwing himself down hills. And that size on a bike with so many uncontrollable variables wasn't going to end well. It didn't end well. And he ended up coming off his bike, and I think he had it on film, and I seen the film, it was horrible. And his shoulder was basically gone. All the joints, I'm going to focus on the acromioclavicular joint, but like one of the joints here, like where the clavicle sits. And he had surgery to basically put back together all these joints. So we were training, obviously we had a fat loss goal, and we were making some inroads, but then that then shifted to a rehab goal. And he still worked with me while he was rehabbing. And I think just for for people that are watching this to take it away, the reason why he did that is because I have an understanding of anatomy, assessment, and exercise modification, which meant I was confident when saying to him, this is what we're going to do. And I'll finish this story on a different podcast when we talk about referring out of what we actually did. But for this one, I'll speak about what we did in terms of adaptation. So like his whole shoulder was near enough gone, which meant we had to, had to be like reconstructed, the ligaments, not the actual shoulder, which meant we had to then get stability back in the shoulder. So rather than doing like a dumbbell chest press, we would do cuffs at some point. But I was able to phase it where we just went from minimal movement to a little bit more, to a little bit more, to a little bit more. And when dealing with injuries, I think having an understanding of exercise mechanics is really important, because you mentioned with your story about controlling tempo and joint forces, etc. If we understand joint forces in a little bit more detail, we can understand how much force we're putting through a shoulder. So when it comes to rehabbing someone, we might not want to expose loads of force. At some point, we probably will, because it's not about protecting them, even though it is. But if we protect them too much, and then he goes and picks his shopping up, we're not in the constraints of a controlled gym environment, that shoulder has to be able to deal with whatever force it is. So it's about being aware of appropriate forces. So for me, exercise selection was key in helping this guy rehab his shoulder.
How when he came back, what was his like limitations, like range? Was it like really bad?
Really bad, yeah.
I couldn't
really
even
bad.
like lift his arm up.
So he was fortunate enough to have private healthcare. So like he had a physio, he went to a top surgeon, and I was liaising with the physio, and we'll come to this in a different episode. I'll save this part of the story, but he got the all clear to train, but it was under certain parameters, if that makes sense. And this guy liked training hard. So for him, it was really frustrating because like it was literally like quite limited, as you said, like, and we had to get limit.
Was it painful as well? Or
Yes,
was it just I'm just stuck?
It was painful. It was painful. But like it was, and this is, so it was painful, but again, like on how I manage pain is I've got this scale in my head. So out of 10, 10 is, I can't move. 1 is no pain at all. How far on the scale are you? I would let him get to about a 3 or 4, maybe a 5 before we would stop the exercise and move on to something different, because pain is not something to be afraid of, even though we don't want pain. In his specific scenario, a little bit of pain was acceptable and not needed.
Safe.
Yeah, safe pain kind of thing. So that was one of the things that we did. And because he liked training hard, when we got a little bit more stability in that shoulder, we were able to do like leg movement. So like we'd train legs completely normal. Obviously like leg extension, we're trying to lock yourself in, maybe not, because you can't.
Couldn't do like a hack, right?
No hack, but like leg curl, leg extensions, adductor machine.
Leg press.
Yeah, like stuff. Yeah, leg press was fine. I'm going to say a little bit, but leg press was fine. But like I allowed him to, or we allowed each other to train hard in the aspects that we can. And I think that's really important. And again, it comes back to my understanding of exercise, because it's easy as coaches to say, oh, someone's injured, they can't train at all, and we lose 6 months worth of sessions. Whereas if we understand, okay, then their upper body is inhibited, we can adjust to get them strength back in here by manipulating some exercises. We've got our full lower body where if we are careful with that, we can train them to their capacity. If they like training hard, we can get him sweating still. We can get him feeling like he was worked out. He can come to the gym and still feel like he's worked out, and the program's completely adapted. And I think when rehabbing, that's one of the key takeaways that I've learned is like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. If someone's injured, it doesn't have to be complete rest. In some cases it might be, but in others, we can really, and this is where training becomes so fun, at least for me as well. Like if I can it's like a puzzle, and it's like, how do I get this guy working hard back to going on a bike, back to actually working, because he was a plasterer. I'm not sure, it was some kind of tradesman. I can't remember which one, but basically, if it was plastering, I'm not sure it was plastering, but he needed his hands. Couldn't work, so he was pissed off at home all day. And it was like, how do we get fat loss? How do we get him training hard? And how do we get him back to work as quickly as possible and as safely as possible? And that was like a little bit of a puzzle that kind of got my mind to work.
I think the hardest thing is managing their mindset as well. Because
Yeah.
there's like, when you're injured, you just, sometimes, although, yeah, you can train your legs hard, right? But you're limited so much in terms of what you can do. And it can be frustrating and kind of a little bit, I'd say boring, but you're like, oh shit, I'm always just doing this kind of thing. And at least with certain injuries, you could probably dance around and have a few different exercises. Or you know, maybe you could still train your upper body and your lower body. But yeah, if his shoulder's completely fucked, it's like, I can imagine how boring it is. Because I injured some ligaments in my wrist, and I was like, I could train my legs, but even then I was like, I don't enjoy training, because it's like the only day that I can really go hard on is that. Or when I'm training chest, it's like, the only thing I can do is use the cable stack. I have to do like cuffed, everything has to be cuffed, because I can't put load through the joint. Even bicep curls, like I have to do, cuff stuff, tricep extensions, everything has to be cuffed. And it was like, yeah, I could train, but it wasn't enjoyable for me. So I guess managing the mindset of someone who's injured as well, and perhaps for a prolonged period of time, that's a big challenge.
It's a really good point, because I've put down mapping the journey, and it was like, even though we'd be working together, it was like taking on a new client again. And I can't speak for him, but I think a big part of the reason why we got to the other side was because we mapped the journey, and we mapped out the progressions. So like, it literally came in with no movement, and it was, as soon as we can get to here, we'll start doing this. As soon as we can get to whatever it is, we'll start doing this. And we could visually see, this is you bench pressing again. This is you going back to work. And it was like, this phase 1 is X, Y, Z. Phase 2 is X, Y, Z. Phase 3. And I did it where I researched and mapped out all the joints in the shoulder. And it was like, these joints are responsible for these movements here. So we're going to focus on this exercise to get that movement. Once you've got that back, we can progress it onto this, and this. And even though, like, I didn't have to do that, but it gave him faith in me that I knew what I was doing. And this was the first time I'd ever done a rehab like that. But it gave myself confidence as well to say, like, I've actually got a structure here. And it didn't always go to plan. There was a few setbacks and whatever else. But that framework and the mapping the journey gave him the patience to be able to trust me, gave me the patience to be able to, like, okay, cool, we're going through this. And it made it a more enjoyable experience. But that is a really good point that you mentioned there.
Did he manage to lose weight during that time?
Yes, during that time he did, but it was, so like, at 100 and whatever kilos, it should have been falling off kind of thing, and it wasn't falling off. But my main priority then shifted from weight loss, fat loss, to getting him back to work and keeping his head on. Because not being able to work, being at home, like, we speak about difficult conversations, I didn't really have the difficult conversations with him, because I couldn't understand, I could only imagine how difficult it must be, because he was self-employed. And when you're self-employed, you're not working, and then you've got this shit going on, and then you couldn't only train, and it was just a whole lot of stuff. So throughout that time, we lost a little bit. It was marginal, but for me, the big win was not putting it back on. And we did have conversations around, okay, then we're going to just maintain here while we're doing this. And eventually we did get back to weight loss. But for that portion of his journey, the focus for me wasn't on why you're not adhering to this diet kind of thing.
It's quite cool though that he had that long-term vision, because a lot of people could have been like, oh, I've not got a job, I'm not working, whatever, I don't want to pay for PT or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is where, because that's 100% true, and I think this is where, like, if you know what you're talking about as a PT and you have confidence, if I didn't know what I knew then, I wouldn't have said anything about, this is what we're going to do. This is, like, even going to research what joints are. If I'd have just said, oh, we can just train legs, mate, it probably wouldn't have, do you know what I mean? It wouldn't have worked. But to say, okay, then we're going to do full body, and the full body is, we'll train our legs as hard as we can. Obviously, we haven't got our shoulder, but we're going to do this to get our shoulder nice and strong again. Like, there's a value there, because him working with me gets him back to work. And throughout this time, I was liaising with the physio, and the physio was approving everything that I was doing. So for him, in terms of value, it was like, I wasn't a commodity, I was essential.
You're part of that rehab
yes,
process.
Exactly. And
NHS physio, private healthcare, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly, because a physio sees someone once every 6 weeks, or however long it is. I see someone 3 times a week. I have more impact. So if I can work with them, I'm an essential part of that healthcare package. And I think a lot of PTs, that's where they can maybe lose a client, because they aren't either confident, they don't have the skill level or the skill set to be an essential part of someone's journey. Because, like, PT is more than just counting reps. And that wasn't the first time, but that was one of the most notable times where it was like, and I didn't have any qualms in still recommending you train with me 2-3 times a week.
Yeah, I think you have to have the confidence to be like, I can take this project on as well.
Yeah, but that confidence comes from studying. Like, you've been on similar courses to me. So when someone comes in, it's not a case of, shit, what do I do? It's, this might be challenging, but I've got that foundation level to at least go and research and understand this complex study in a little bit more detail. So I think it was very interesting. And one thing I'll say as well, because you mentioned just focus on nutrition at one point, if someone's injured, you can just focus on nutrition. Another thing you can do alongside that is just take them online. And online might be a little bit of a cheaper package. I'm just thinking about purely client retention. So someone's interested, let's say that guy couldn't train at all, focus on nutrition, maybe can't do that or can do that. We might say, all right, then come online. And again, it's just looking at ways to make yourself essential within that coaching journey. And it keeps the client, so when he is signed off from the physio, okay, cool, come back in. And it's not like reselling yourself because you've never gone.
Yeah, because their stage of change is going to change as well, right? So initially when they sign up with you, they're probably like raring to go. They want to lose fat, whatever. They're ready to change, right? And then they have this setback. All of a sudden, they've gone from like, I'm ready to lose fat to like, ooh, you know. But if you can kind of convince them or show them like, okay, this is the route, you can kind of alter and stop them from kind of going backwards.
Yeah.
In terms of that stage.
Definitely, and just shifting focus to something else, which again, when it comes to retention, we'll deal with the injury, we'll deal with nutrition, and then we'll go back to whatever the original plan was.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to cover on this one?
No, I think they're two very good case studies.
Cool, yeah, man. Cool. To be fair, I thought it was going to be worse when you said you broke someone. I wouldn't even say you broke someone's leg. I say someone's leg broke under your personal training session.
But for me, that's exactly the narrative. I always felt like I broke somebody's leg. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, now you've let it out, so you can sleep now.
You can sleep now.
Yeah.
Let me know. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. And as always, you can find us on socials. I am at Gym with Him, and my co-host Jewade is at Jewade Graham Coach. And we will catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Peace.